Welcome to the Lois and Lamar TV talk show. I am Lois, your host for the evening. Co-hosting with me is none other than my partner, Lamar Bumbry. We have a special co-host this evening, Miss Suzette Price. We will be doing a documentary type style interview on Mr. Robert E. Johnson. Robert, welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Nice to have you.
It's my pleasure, definitely.
Tell me a little bit about yourself, Robert. Where were you born?
Well, I was born in Mount Holly, New Jersey. We lived in Morristown at that time, which is now Tom Brown and Albany Road, which is a pretty popular spot. We moved to Pennsauken. I was raised in Camden and graduated from Camden High School. Went to Rowan University. Went to Seton Hall Law School. Taught the 5th grade and a couple other classes in Camden through a period of time. You know, I was a teacher in Camden.
Sir, before we go even further, you know, just the fact that you made so many accomplishments and the fact that you were actually, you know, born in Camden, raised in Camden and certain things, tell me, how was it for you, you know, living in Camden and trying to reach these goals? And was it difficult for you, you know, in that environment?
No, not really. Because once upon a time, Camden, you know, you can find old encyclopedias say that Camden makes everything from a pen to a battleship. And, you know, mostly any and everybody, and I ain't the first one to say this, come from Camden. You know, Huey Bogman, the first head of the Secret Service, from Camden. Charles Maddox, the first black inspector general for President of the United States, from Camden.
That's right.
So, I mean, the list of who comes from Camden goes on and on. You know, Lola Falana's from Camden. Leon Huff, who has 3,000 hit records, from Camden. So, I mean, Eric Lewis, right now the greatest pianist in the world, run the Thelonious Monk Award. He's from Camden.
Nice.
So, yeah, so no, it was no problem. A lot of great fighters was from Camden as well. You know, I fought professionals as well. You know, we used to have a gym called the Pro-Am Gym, which was on Haddon and Lime.
Haddon and Lime?
Yeah, Haddon and Lime in Camden.
Oh, wow, yeah. I know exactly where that is.
Were you boxing when you were going to school? How did you go from boxing to law?
Well, you know, believe it or not, you know, it's a funny story. My last fight, I fought Angel de Leon at the Tropicana. It was a draw. You know, I got knocked down in the first round. Everybody saw it, but I didn't lose. But after that fight, I decided to go back to school.
That was a TKO, right?
I didn't lose. It was a draw.
Now, you own the label too, Motown? Is that correct?
No, I don't own Motown.
No, the label. You bought the label?
Well, what I do is I own Soul Records,
which
was one of the landmark labels of Motown.
Okay.
See, because what happened is Barry Gordy started Motown in 1964. He started Soul Records. Matter of fact, Soul Records actually recorded the greatest of Motown, truthfully. They recorded Gladys Knight and the Pips. I heard it through the grapevine, Midnight Train to Georgia. All that was on Soul Records.
Oh, so that's where the real magic was coming from at that time.
Oh yeah, matter of fact, this is something. Earl Van Dyke, who is known as the original, what you would call, music director for Motown, which actually made Motown besides Barry Gordy. He recorded all his music on Soul Records. Just the other evening, Don Carlos Thompson from Detroit, who used to work with him in Motown, he's also signed with Soul Records now as a writer, and he's producing an artist right now who's also from Detroit, from that original circle, named James Anderson. And that should be coming out maybe in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Soul Records also, you guys may not know it, but the original is recorded on Soul Records. Matter of fact, Marvin Gaye, he wrote some of the songs and produced the originals on Soul Records. Him and Anna Gordy, his wife, they're the ones that wrote the record Be For Real, which was recorded by the originals on Soul Records. And everybody knows Junior Walker and the All-Stars.
Yes.
Recorded Shotgun, What Does It Take to Win Your Love From Me? And of course, Exclusive Soul, which is recording on Soul Records, which is signed with me. We will be redoing that record soon, What Does It Take by Junior Walker and the All-Stars.
Wow.
Okay, you will,
Nice.
And I like to also say, you know, like on our website, soulrecordsllc.com, we have what we call Artists Then and Artists Now.
Okay.
artists now are guys like Drew Zach, who was the first guy who I put a record out on Soul Records. We recorded that right here.
Mm-hmm.
And that was recorded and written by a guy named Ricky Style, who's also with us.
Okay.
Ricky, who wrote the song, as you may have seen Michelle Obama do the Shimmy Twist on the Jimmy Fallon show. But anyway, some of the new artists that we have on there are Tina Riley, which recorded a record here called Feeling You.
Okay.
Ken Willis, who's in Phoenix, Arizona. He has a record which is on Soul Records called Justice. Ralph Dudley, who also has a record that's in the Chase Street series that's coming out, a real popular record called Soul Latino. And that was it was a sold out premiere over at Seal Beach, California for the Soul Records release party for Soul Latino. Ralph Dudley, actually, he's originally from the Detroit Circle too.
Oh wow.
And then, I have Roy Williams who's on the label. It's a new guy who I just got called Dean Martini. He's on the label. He has some superb stuff that he's put together, music videos, recordings. He's a dynamic writer. But in the past, if you go to Soul Records, then artists, the list goes on. I mean, War, which was a hit record recorded by Edwin Starr, that was on Soul Records. Frances Nero, she recorded everything on Soul Records. The Soul Record label, Fantastic Four, was on Soul Records.
So this is where just everything was just coming out. Like they said, no this doubt, is where it was, but this is where everything was coming. Yes,
I mean, it was part of Motown. So without Soul Records, I mean, there's really no Motown. But
you heard it.
Motown,
That's what he said.
Soul Records,
I mean, you heard it.
And that was the beginning of real soul, because see, soul was such a cross between jazz, R&B, and gospel.
Yes.
And so Barry Gordy in 1964, he decided to go ahead and start the label. And the trademark that we have, the logo, the trademark, and all that is the same thing that Barry started in 1964.
Would you say that's your greatest accomplishment so far?
Well, I would think so. That would be. I got a lot of things I consider great accomplishments.
Absolutely.
But, right now working on a Western about Jim Beckworth, African American U.S. Marshal. We worked on the soundtrack in here this morning, and it's going to be an awesome Western once it gets done. And I produced with Chase Street, the series. Been on the set of Superfly. They were all my crew right there. Ryan O'Neal that played Superfly. Sig Shore that made the movie. You may look on my Facebook page and see me and KC on it with a Soul Record shirts on. That was his automobile in Superfly. And me and Ryan O'Neal, we were very close. He's deceased now, but he was the one. As a matter of fact, two dentists are the ones that funded Superfly, actually, from Harlem.
I remember growing up watching Superfly, like that whole era, everything from Motown and what we're now learning where these real classics are coming from. You guys marked an entire generation and beyond. With music that came from that era, it's timeless. It goes on any commercial, it can go in any club, anytime, any barbecue, and there's going to be a bunch of people that know these songs from one top of a generation to another.
You're correct. When you mentioned family reunions, a friend of mine named Carrie Gilbert, he was from Camden also. He was one of the writers of Me and Mrs. Jones. Billy Paul was my neighbor. He also wrote Family Reunion.
See?
That was one of the
Sunday afternoons, I know what it is.
Matter of fact, Carrie used to come into the gym on Haddon and Line, sit down and call with songs and say, let me call Gams and Huff, Kenny Gamble, Leon Huff, and put this song together with them. Living for the Weekend was one of them. Matter of fact, them guys put together 3,000 hit songs. Victor Karstoffen was from Camden. He was the writer of one called Wake Up Everybody.
Put it out there.
He also wrote Bad Luck, Matter of fact, before he's deceased, he was working with the Temptations, Your Love Is True, Treat Her Like a Lady. They were some of the things that he was working on. And he was doing some things for Soul Records naturally because he was now part of Motown Circle anyway.
Okay.
Have you ever worked with any gospel artists?
Well, my niece, Yolanda Johnson Smith, She's gonna be putting out a record on Soul Records. She's gospel. She's had a gospel record out before. Matter of fact, Frank Green and Clarence English. Frank is also a music director with Exclusive Soul. They plan on putting some things together for her. But as far as me actually recording a gospel artist, I've never actually recorded none. But I got 2 very good gospel songs that I've written that you will hear.
Tell us more what you want to do in the future.
Well, part of the stuff that I'm gonna do in the future, I got Erskine Entertainment, which we're gonna be branching out doing some films. I want to do a couple of films. I'd like to do another thing on Bumpy Johnson.
Yes.
Because the true story about Bumpy has never been told. Judy Bird is real life chauffeur. He died July the 7th at Wells Restaurant. Bumpy was one of the ones that backed the Negro Baseball League. He sent a lot of guys to school. He also was responsible for paying for Malcolm X's funeral. A lot of things he did that nobody even know about. He also was the one that helped fund Amama Baraka's theater group. And we used to go and do his theater group. And, a lot of people may not, I hear people say this, but he wasn't no drug dealer, none of that kind of stuff in Harlem. None of that happened. Casper Holstein was the guy who came up with the numbers. It was his idea. That's how the numbers came into existence. So a lot of people, he helped Willie Mays. As a matter of fact, he's the one that got Willie Mays' wife her liquor license.
Okay.
So, got one of the black women the first employment job. I think it was at Woolworths or one of those job places. And then there's some things I like to do around Judge Mathis because of Coleman Young. Because, Mathis has a great story. He also went to prison and things like that, got out and petitioned the Supreme Court to become an attorney, and, eventually became a judge. There's a lot of individuals out there, stories that I want to tell through Erskine Entertainment. One of them is Percy Sutton, who was a real good Masonic brother, friend of mine, because I'm a Freemason. Matter of fact, I'm originally raised in the Lodge of Freemasons, which is in Detroit on Erskine Street. I have a young brother who's also a dentist there, which has what they call Sunshine Dental. His name's Hal C. Johnson.
Follow that star.
Yeah, he graduated from Camden High, him and his wife. Matter of fact, they got the 2 highest grades in the school. He was the Oaks Award and she was the Dukes Award. I think that's how it went. And then they got married.
Sometimes it works out that way. That's the one thing I really do admire, that you're really putting it out there for a lot of different individuals, because that's the one thing about history. It's his story. It's not the story.
True. And and that's part of the things with the music business too, because even when I got Soul Records, there was a situation where I also was reaching out for Chess Records.
Okay.
But Chess Records, they had like Muddy Waters was on there.
Muddy Waters.
David Geffen at Geffen Records, he wound up with that. And I'm satisfied with Chess Records because, I'm satisfied with Soul Records that I didn't get Chess Records, because Soul was more important than Chess. Ryan Gibson, who's one of the lead singers for Exclusive Soul, saw him the other day. He had a Soul Record shirt on the back of the shirt it says, "The Soul Never Died."
I guess you played chess with your soul.
Well, they got a joke say I raised Barry Gordy's soul, but that's just, his soul record label.
Exactly. I know there's so many people that are really looking at this right now, and there's people in the woodworks coming up. There's people under you, under me, under them. I know that there's always something that you could tell them about your journey to really keep them going, because there's dark times that a person has as they're trying to rise up, and they go through dark times only to get to the light after that. So what would be a good piece of advice?
Well, you gotta believe in whatever it is that you're going to do. That's one thing, and then sometimes God calls you and gives you a calling. Because as I said, when I was sitting in church and I was realizing that Soul Records was available, there was a reason that I was getting this information. And so, first thing I did was, contact those who originally had it, and I made my moves in order to obtain it. So when you have something that you have in your heart and somebody put something in front of you and you know it's a reason for it to be there. Like for instance, the other day I posted a photograph of Earl Van Dyke, you know, in the original Soul label, and said, you know, how he was on Soul Records. Meantime, I just signed Carlos Thompson, to Soul Records about maybe a month ago. He calls me right up and said, guess what? That's who I worked under, Earl Van Dyke. I didn't have no idea. You know what I mean? I didn't even know he even knew Earl Van Dyke. But yeah, he was one of his proteges, and that's who he actually worked with. You know, and I said, well, that's, you know, reason for that coincidence. You hear with Soul Records, and Earl Van Dyke was one of the first people to record on Soul Records and was the musical director for Motown. Matter of fact, he even said that Earl used to play at their glee club when they was in high school, and he was in the 10th grade. That's when he met him. So there was a good reason for that.
Wow.
And with Ken Willis, who has a record called Justice, you know, I got on a radio show. It was him, I think it was him, George Benson, and a few other guys out there. And then the guy, James Anderson, that Carlos was producing, he said, yeah, I want you to meet a guy named Ken Willis. Well, I just met him on the radio show. So he winds up recording with me also.
7 degrees of separation.
Exactly. It's all circling back.
Exactly, yeah.
As it does.
For a reason.
Everything happens in this world for a reason. Only some people can see what that reason is. Some people can't. But it all happens for a reason.
You know, and I think Soul Records is like, to me, the epitome, you know, of the music industry.
Yes.
You know, I mean, the label when Barry started, it was nothing like it.
Yes.
And, you know, God giving me the strength to resurrect it, it's still going to be nothing like it, because check out some of the artists that we got coming off of it.
Soul Records is your passion.
Yeah, well, I mean, I got a few
joy.
passions, but you know, that's one of the major ones.
You can see the joy in your face when
Yeah.
you talk about Soul Records.
Yeah, that's one of the major ones, Soul Records, absolutely. I mean, Erskine Entertainment, Mighty Works Media, but, you know, I got to talk about Soul Records because of the fact that, you know, I got so much talent. Terry Steele, he sent me some songs, you know, I think it was about 8 songs he sent me, and said that, you know, I should listen to them. They're all great soul songs. I just saw on Facebook where he's doing a show, I think in LA tomorrow. I don't know, the Steely Dan and a few other people on the show, but he's a fantastic guy. He sings well. He's a good writer. Matter of fact, his Grammy was Here and Now that he wrote for Luther Vandross. Yeah. Matter of fact, he's doing Luther Vandross tour as well. You know, and another guy named Darryl Walker, he has a thing called East Bay Soul that he works with. They also were on Motown Records back in the past. And we were talking about him redoing another record on Soul Records, and one that was already done by Major Harris, because, you know, we haven't signed and made this concrete yet, but we've been talking about it because he performs this a lot and a lot of people like it. You know, it's called Love Won't Let Me Wait, you know, which was written by Bobby Eli.
Okay.
You know, he was a great songwriter, you know, out of the Philadelphia International Record Circle.
Okay. So tell me, do you sleep?
Yeah, I usually
that is an important question.
I usually sleep at night. You know, that's for some reason or another. I can't. Like last night, I was up late because I communicated with some people in Japan and China, and I was up like 4 o'clock in the morning. And in China, it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. In Japan, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like crossing reality.
So I'm not the only one who stays up all night long.
Yeah, I don't do that all the time.
Yeah,
but, you know,
yeah, it does happen. It does happen. It does happen. Yeah.
And we are so happy that you came to be a part of us, and we thank you.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out for the Lois Lamar TV talk show. Be here next time on the airwaves. We love you. See you soon.